Well, welcome back again this week to Analysis Behind the News. I'm going to deviate a little bit this week because of the recent Republican victory at the polls, and try and instill in you the desire and the necessity to keep in touch with these newly elected individuals, whether they're local, state, or federal, because the other side is going to try and co-opt these people as soon as possible. And a lot of times we think, wow, we won the election, we're in a state of euphoria, the situation's in hand, the Republicans or whomever are going to solve the problem, etc. And that's not going to happen for a number of reasons. First of all, from my own experience, from what I've seen, this is the way it works. Now, if it's going to be precisely this way this time, I am not sure. But from my past experience as a Republican activist and involved in politics, I know that this is what's happened in the past. What we see is the candidate who's won, and he's in front of the television, and the cameras are there, and they're rolling, and the family comes out, and all the campaign workers, and he's up there thanking people, and we're all happy and gay, and we've won the election. The next morning, however, reality sets in. And the man or woman says, wait a minute, here I'm going to have this new job. I don't even know where to park my car. I don't even know where the men's room is. I don't know where my office is going to be. I don't have a staff. Brother, I've got a lot of learning to do between now and when I'm sworn in. That's about the time they receive a call from Washington, D.C. Come on back for orientation. We're going to get you educated as to the procedures back here, etc. And the person is very relieved and heads right on back to Washington, D.C. and goes into a room with a number of other newly elected individuals. And at that moment, the atmosphere changes from orientation to the idea that you have to do everything now, from this moment on, to get reelected. Everything that you do has to be done in that light. In other words, how you vote, the staff you hire, the money you have to raise, so on and so forth, is to get you reelected. Because after all, if you're not reelected, you can't get the things done that you want to get done as a result of the promises you made in your campaign. Well, that's the mindset. And they really hammer on them the idea that you've got to start right now raising money for your next campaign. Now, who controls that money? Well, generally speaking, the establishment of the various parties control those re-election monies, if you will. They can channel them to re-election committees from the House or the Senate, various PAC committees, and so on and so forth. But those are generally influenced and or controlled by the party establishment themselves. And so you have to kind of get in that psychological mood of supporting the party and its agenda, whatever that is. And if you don't, then you have a problem. They don't help you raise the money. I do know in this last election cycle, some of these election committees actually went down into the states and made sure that the candidates they did not want didn't run in the primary, or they worked against them in the primary, when really the party is supposed to be neutral. Well, the party being neutral is fiction. It isn't. And they will do everything they can to prevent constitutionalists, moral constitutionalists, from being elected. Now then, you also want to bring your staff back. I've got a lot of capable people that help me get elected. And they tell you that, well, wait a minute, what you need to do is to leave those people at home, because you need them working for you constantly in your district to get you reelected. So leave them at home. And here are a bunch of resumes that we've vetted that are here waiting for you to take a look at and see who you want to hire out of this stack of resumes. And of course, because these people have received their job with this newly elected individual through the party apparatus, their loyalty tends to be a little bit more for the party rather than the person they work for. That can change over time, but that's the way these things tend to be. So they start to lock them into the system. Another thing is that if you don't like the leadership of your party and you vote against it, well, you don't get, if you're in the majority or even the minority, you don't get the appointments to the committees from the Speaker of the House or the Majority Whip or whatever position it happens to be that appoints a particular individual to a particular committee. You may get no committee whatsoever. This happened for a long time to Ron Paul until two things happened. One was the rise of the Tea Party movement, and also the fact that the man was enjoying more and more support out in the public, and he became more in the public eye. And as a result of being in the public eye, they could no longer tell him that he was no longer on any of the committees in the House of Representatives. So they do not want individuals on some of these committees because to them they're troublemakers. They're individuals who really want to get something done. They ask embarrassing questions. They hold people accountable. That sort of thing. It's not business as usual, in other words. And so if you do not get a committee assignment because you haven't adhered to the leadership of your party, then it makes it difficult for you to fulfill your promises that you've made to the electorate in your district, to either get something done, a law passed or repealed, or even to bring home the bacon. So these are real serious problems for someone who is newly elected and gets them in the mode of following the leadership, following the leader, no matter what. It takes a real strong individual, and not only strong, but an individual who has a lot of background to understand the problems and the nature of the solutions that have to be done to those problems in our country for him to buck the tide, if you will, and swim upstream. The other thing, too, is that they can make you look extreme by your votes. The media plays a role in this. You may become known, like Ron Paul did, as Dr. No, because you vote against so many different bills. And so the party leadership will always play a role in that. They will start talking about the embarrassment that you're giving to the party because of your positions. And don't you think you should moderate your positions a little bit so that this is not embarrassing to our long-range program? Those are the sorts of things that they do in that regard. And finally, what they also do will say, you have no agenda. Well, sometimes no agenda is an agenda. You know, we have gotten to the point where we think that if there's a plan for government to interfere in the marketplace, that is a good thing, instead of letting the marketplace find its own level. Instead of the individual doing his own thing, so to speak, and not being regulated and manipulated by the government. Those are not solutions. If we would just simply get government out of the marketplace would flourish. And of course, there are other aspects of it too, these various partnerships that they're trying to promote, free trade agenda, that kind of thing. We have to get out of those things as well. So a lot of times it's not a plan. My plan would be, for instance, if I was in Congress, would be to do as little as possible. Nothing, if at all possible, relative to the economic situation in the country, other than to get government out of the marketplace, leave it alone, allow it to be a really free marketplace where the individual, the businessman, and the worker can work together to stimulate the economy. Less government, less taxes, more freedom, that always stimulates economy. So these are some of the things that go on psychologically and physically behind the scenes relative to these newly elected individuals, which means this, for you and me, that we have to keep in touch with these newly elected people now and frequently, and to educate and help them understand the real nature of what's going on and provide pressure against the kinds of pressure that they're receiving from their own establishment leaders in their party. Until next week, we'll see you then.